I want to share with you about is that, um, I really love my father. I was with him through all of this, and I saw his suffering from diabetes. I saw the times I had to bring him orange juice. I saw the times when his fingers at the end were so pricked that they were all black toward the end. And I'm very devoted to diabetes. Feel very honored to be invited by Dr. Sidhu and the team to speak with you. And I want to give you an idea that may be new to you. Because what I'm going to talk with you about is a new paradigm in healthcare that will gain more and more momentum because it's based on the brain. And the other doctor who was speaking, I don't know her name, I didn't catch her name, who was talking about research. She talked about the brain. And this spring, I gave a full talk, of some of which I'm showing you here, to the Obesity Medicine Association, to 1,200 doctors. And what we were hearing is a lot about these medications, which are just life-saving because when you need that food because you're being driven by stress and stress chemicals by physiology to get that food, you're gonna get that food one way or the other. And the GLP-1 drugs are fantastic and let us know that this is not a psychological problem, it is a biological problem. What I'm going to show you is I'm encouraging you to do everything you can to follow what Dr. Sidhu is saying, because that is managing the symptoms. But I don't want us to lose sight of the fact that the root cause of diabetes is not an insufficiency of GLP-1. That is a way of helping us manage the problem. The root cause, other than genetics, is our brain is in stress overload. Our brain, because of this, the world in which we live, the stress goes into our brain, it gets stuck there. We're in chronic stress. So all of us have something called chronic physiologic stress overload. So what I'm going to show you today is some wonderful news that you can apply right away that will not only make you feel better in the moment, but make your brain get better. Because you can actually wire your own brain out of the stress that society has put in, that in fact having diabetes puts in, because it's stored in the circuitry. And we can use neuroplasticity to change that brain and go from a brain that's in the stress habit to a brain that actually is in the opposite of stress, which is not relaxation, which is actually that state of loving connection of optimal physiology, which is joy. And that's what I want to talk with you about today. And I want to start by saying, let's create some joy right now with your own brain. Would you like to do that? Would you like to do that? Okay. I'm going to show you methods of creating joy in 2.2 minutes and 36 seconds that will take you to a level of joy reliably 92% of the time by using the emotional pathways in your brain, which you already have. You're just going to strengthen them. But you can do it sort of a way that's not quite as effective, but it's called joy points. And I want you to score a joy point right now. You're going to do this with your own brain. And in general, what we've invested in our country is thinking and doing. We're using our neocortex. Actually, the stress brain is the emotional brain, and it doesn't even hear thoughts. It only responds to emotions. So what I'm going to show you is an emotional skill set that will allow you to go from any level of stress where your chemicals are causing you to have hyperinsulinemia, to have obesity, and you're going to switch off those chemicals, and I'm going to show you how to do it, and to get to chemicals that are healing. Not only in GLP-1, but the whole range of chemicals that are actually contributing to obesity and diabetes. How does that sound? Okay, so you're going to do it right now. It's a little short one, and I'm going to have to really go through this quickly because I want to tell you something. I'm going to show you 5 videos, and I only have a few minutes to do it, so you can actually learn how to begin to do this. 3 of the videos, when I get to them, is a first session of how to wire your brain for joy, but I'm going to show you a couple others first. But I really want you to feel a little bit of joy right now. Shall we do it? Okay, this is called a joy point. You count your joy points during the day. And what you do is I want you to, first of all, you've been working really hard. You learned a tremendous amount already. And what we're going to do is I want you to sit back in your chair, take a few nice, deep, nurturing breaths. Please do that. Just sit back in your chair, Even maybe close your eyes for just a moment, take a few nice, deep, nurturing breaths. You deserve it. It's been a long day. You've done incredible. And that feels so good, doesn't it? Just take a nice, deep breath. And then I want you to put your shoulders back and your chest out. Take a nice, deep breath, maybe even a smile on your face. And then, with your beautiful thinking brain, I want you to bring up a happy memory. Just one. Maybe one of your happiest memories ever. Happiest memories ever. Just bring it up and pause and stay with it for about a minute. Just bring it up and savor it. And then when you're ready for more, open your eyes and I'm going to ask you a question. Turn your attention to your body and notice if you feel a slight glow, a slight relaxation, a little bit of lightness, or you feel a little smile on your face, but you feel something different in your body. What you're feeling is the activations of the opposite of stress, which is joy, those chemicals in of your emotional brain you feel in your body. Who notices a little bit of a difference just by bringing that to mind? All right. Okay, so you are affecting your chemicals even with the least amount of what I can show you to do. Okay, isn't that great? Okay, who wants the natural approach? You want the best technology for the diabetes to manage it, right? Don't we want that? The very best, and you're getting it. And then we also want something else, which is we want something natural that's in our own brain that we can have 24/7, that will go to the root cause and help all the other medications and devices work better. Are you ready to see the science? What I'm going to tell you about is EBT, which is a method that my colleagues and I at UCSF have worked on it for more than 40 years. Again, it's a new paradigm where you're focusing on the brain and you're going for the big guns, which is the stress response. The stress response controls your entire physiology. So what it does is over the eons, we developed a stress response that has multiple feedback loops that keeps you really healthy. And we want to turn that on and strengthen it. And so it means that if you want to do that, you've got to focus on something called joy. And why is that? It's because joy is health. This is Antonio Damasio, one of the top neuroscientists in the world. And he completely destroyed all the textbooks in all this schools by saying that homeostasis, which means, staying balanced, right? You remember homeostasis from high school? It's really not just being relaxed. You've got to get to joy. The human spirit needs joy. That's where your chemicals are all naturally their best. So what it means is we have to think differently. What happens is physiologically, stress and joy are opposites. Okay, or we said, so what we're going to do, if you want to get rid of something, what do? You give it the opposite. So what the strategy is with EBT is to say, let's use advances in neurosciences, new technologies in emotions to create joy to overcome the stress. How does that sound to you? Okay, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And I'm also going to tell you how important it is. You know that when you go to Braden, what they talk about is the fact that we know that that you're working with two things. You're working with obesity, and you're also working with your insulin levels, right? You're working with all of that. Well, it turns out that stress contributes to obesity. Stress contributes to insulin resistance. Obesity contributes to insulin resistance. Obesity contributes to type 2 diabetes. And insulin-resistant causes or worsens type 2 diabetes. Look at all this. So what we're doing is we're being driven by stress. The two major things that we're trying to focus on with type 2 diabetes, the missing link is stress. And so essentially we've got to treat the brain stress. Okay. Stress, and also it's just not that we have diabetes, but the whole world is getting stressed. Have you noticed that? The whole world is getting stressed. And in fact, the US is one of the fourth most stressed nations on the planet. We are a stressed nation. So, and also the stress is increasing at all ages. But this is comparing 2018 to 2022. So the stress is getting worse. We have our own stress that contributes to the diabetes. And so the whole idea is it particularly important for those of us who want to prevent or treat diabetes to deal effectively based on neuroscience with the stress. And you've probably heard of Robert Sapolsky. He wrote the book when zebras why zebras don't get ulcers. Well, he says, look at the stress response activates biochemical drives to overeat, deposit fat. That's because during 99% of evolution of human history, food was sparse and unpredictable. So what happened is we were used to being eaten by lions, and if we did get stressed, we figured that we were probably dying of starvation. So what happens? Our brains now today think that when we're stressed from psychological purposes, that we're starving to death, and so it makes us really hungry and makes us gain the weight. So if you take, this is an interesting thing I did one night where I said, okay, let's just take the 8 top chemicals that are associated with obesity and see what happens when you're stressed and they all go the wrong direction. So just as was said before, it's not just one chemical. All of them become adipogenic. They make, and same with insulin resistance. Name the top insulin resistance chemicals. All of them get worse when we're stressed. So what we're seeing is this theme that we've got to take our stress, our internalized stress, the stress that's in our brain, and clear it. Now, here's the GLP-1s, which I think are amazing because what they've told us is, again, it's not a psychological problem, it's biological. Look at this weight loss that can go on with GLP-1s. Unfortunately, they don't stay because we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is stress overload in the brain. But this is so wonderful for anyone. And have you ever been through the situation where you're blaming yourself for overeating? You say, I'm not good on my diet, and all of this indication that there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. It's a biological problem. We just haven't treated it. And in the same study, the control group was diet and exercise, and you can see it just didn't work. If you don't deal with the physiology of stress overload or have medications that change the physiology, you're not going to have lasting weight loss and lasting control. EBT that was developed at UCSF has shown lasting control. In fact, it's the only method that has been shown in peer-reviewed journals to produce lasting weight loss after treatment ends. And so we're saying that, can't we put together the best of medicine and then also do the natural approach in neuroplasticity with the brain and change the brain stress response? In fact, this woman who I worked with for a while at UCSF, Janet Tomiyama, and now she's at UCLA, she did a whole review of obesity, and she says nothing's really working. That was before GLP-1s changed the symptom of the weight. But she says the most logical intervention would be stress itself because stress just piles on these problems from very different directions. So the question is, we got to deal with the stress problem in our nation. And we've got to deal with it particularly with diabetes. So if we're going to tackle stress, if we're going to do it in a meaningful way because it's stored in our brain, we're going to have some innovation here. Because right now in psychology, we're saying biochemistry, thoughts, emotions, and habits, they're completely separate silos. But you know what? That's not based on brain science. They're not separate silos. What they are is they're circuits. They're all woven together. And so we need to stop just talking about emotions or biochemistry. The controller of our health is the circuits in our unconscious mind. And they, like I say, they integrate all of those factors into one circuit. So it's one target. So our problem is our stress circuits. We're going to switch them over, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So all of us have in your unconscious mind, you have an amygdala, which is the size of a peanut, and it stores all the circuits of all your past experience. So when something comes up, like for example, I just couldn't do this, right? Okay, my circuit starts going. What kind of a circuit's going to be? What did I do before? And what happens is the brain just coughs up whatever we did before, and we respond with our biochemistry, our thoughts, our emotions, and our behaviors that way. So you have a unique set of circuits in your amygdala that you keep replaying. Some of them are really helpful. They're called joy circuits. And that means that they're homeostatic. So going back to science, it's called a homeostatic circuit, which it means, you kind of handle it, but you stay connected and you come back and you feel good about yourself. You know what I mean? You feel good. And this is what's health promoting. We want more of those joy circuits in our brain. The other kind, or the number one problem in the world, which is these stress circuits. The reason that they're so damaging is because they have no shutoff valve. And what happens once you get triggered, you can't get out of it. Or once you take that first bite, have you ever had that happen where you say, "There's all these cookies here. I'm just going to take one bite." Okay, so never blame yourself for that. It's because you're running a stress circuit. And once you take that bite, the stress circuit owns you and it starts driving you chemically to continue. Okay, so that's what's happening. These stress circuits get stuck on, and then we become chronically stressed. The more and more of these circuits we have, the more health problems we have, and the health problems then cause more stress. So let's say in that moment that I was messing up with the clicker, I was goofing up right in front of all of you, and I can't even figure out how to put my thumb on this, right? Um, in that moment, in my amygdala, my circuits were competing. The strongest circuit is going to get activated. I mean, they really duke it out. And that the circuit was I stayed connected. And so that circuit, my joy circuit, actually is going to get stronger, and my stress circuit's going to get weaker. That's brain neuroplasticity. You can't medicate your way to a new brain. You can deal with the consequences, but the way you deal with overall health and your brain is you have to experience it. You have to be in that moment, have the stress, and somehow transfer it over so you actually cope. And that's what these skills allow us to do. So essentially, if you happen to be in a situation and you activate a stress circuit, you're going to have a biochemical drive to eat the kinds of foods you know you shouldn't. And then you'll blame yourself, right? And there you're back where you started. If the stronger circuit, because you had pumped it up, was actually a joy circuit, this food would look actually more delicious. So instead of judging ourselves from our food, we start looking at how to change our circuits so we naturally want to eat healthier. And so it's really a matter of neuroplasticity. Diabetes treatment changed the dominance of circuits. So how many people would go for this? Try to get more joy circuits in your brain. Who would be up for that? Okay, that's the natural way. And the other part of it is it's really fun. And I'm going to tell you about that. You have to wake up in the morning, and instead of saying to yourself, "What is my list of things I have to do?" What you're going to say is, everyone around me is all stressed out. I choose joy. I choose joy because my brain can do it. And the moment that I'm not in that, now that's not happy, happy. It's gritty, but you're connected. You're connected to your body. You know what's going on. You're of higher purpose and you function. I choose joy. And when I'm not in joy, I'm going to use some skills. I'm actually going to switch it over. I don't feel good right now, so I'm going to use some tools to process my emotions and clear the stress and go back to joy. This is the downside because there's got to be a downside, right? Okay, the downside is you can't just take a pill. You actually have to use the tools. You have to experience joy 10 times a day. 10 times a day to begin to change the habit. And so what you do is you say, "Okay, I'm gonna figure out," because most of the time we're not in joy, right? Most of the time we're stressed out. This system actually looks at what goes on in the brain, and all you have to do is identify your stress number. Because a different area of the brain is in charge for each level of stress, so there's a different emotional pathway. So there's only 5 tools you need to learn. If I'm at 4, I use the 4 tool. The 3, I use the 3 tool. I'm gonna show you the 3 tool in just a minute. So if you're down here at 3, 4, or 5, you're running a stress circuit and you're in trouble. You're actually in stress overload and you might not even know it. You might just be on a false high. Oh, everything's fine, but you're still in stress. Or you might be numb because some people have a stress style where they go numb. How many people go high? Oh, everything's fine. How many people go numb? No feelings at all. Great. How many people go low? There's no other option. Okay. So what that means is a tool for each one of those, a different emotional tool, and you just use it. And within 2 minutes, you're back to feeling great. And so what happens is you're gonna be focusing not on your problems, but on the fact that your beautiful brain can get to joy, and let's do it. Okay? Just use the tools. And so here's a woman, and I wanna show you this really carefully. This is a woman who had not been using EBT. We do it in groups, telephone groups, and she had not been using it. And she came back to the group and she says, "I'm just gonna use my grind-in." This is a basic tool in EBT that shuts off the circuit, and she's just gonna use it right before she ate because she wanted to shut off the chemicals that were making her overeat. Remember, it's about biochemistry. It's about biochemistry. We're shutting off those chemicals. And so let's go ahead and listen to her.
And one of my problems has been that if something's in front of me at night or on the weekend, not during the day, during the week, but those times, I will eat it till it's gone. And full, hungry, doesn't matter. So I started doing a grind in, and I haven't been good about doing them before I eat. And last night, I had made something that had 3 servings. I ate one
Yeah.
without trying. So I still have another one left. And I didn't try.
And the hallmark of having changed the circuits in the unconscious mind that control our biochemistry is it's not effortful. It feels natural because we've switched off the chemicals that would otherwise make us want more food than we really need or is good for our diabetes. And that's the point, to make it easier so it can be lasting. So, but how do you switch the circuits? The way you switch the circuits is you essentially first of all appreciate that the stress circuit is pretty bad. When you let's say that you went in and you went to look into the kitchen and you saw, let's say, a bunch of donuts up on the counter. You know that feeling, right? Okay. So the moment you hit that, if you're not hungry and you look at that donut, it comes into your brain. And if you hit one of these stress circuits, you're going to have a chemical uh, outlash where the chemicals are going to drive you to eat it. You're going to have ineffective emotions like going way high, way low, or numb. You're going to say, "I've got to have that food or I'm going to die." And then you go ahead and eat it. And you from now on going forward, you can be sure that it's not you, it's a circuit. That's the circuit that does it, and that's the number one problem worldwide, these stress circuits. It's under all the mental health problems as well as chronic diseases. But fortunately, there's something better, which is the other circuit, which is the joy circuit, and you switch circuits and all of a sudden it's love and light. Okay. If you haven't done it before, you say, "How does that happen?" And I'm gonna show you how it happens because I'm gonna show someone doing it. I'm also gonna tell you that it's not just about stress management. And this is really important, particularly for those of you who are physicians in the room and other health professionals, because this what I'm about to show you is science that is very well accepted, but it hasn't been applied much, so it might be new to you. And that is that in the brain, in the unconscious mind, I mentioned to you that there's the amygdala, right? Because that's where all of the stress circuits are stored. But essentially, there's a stress triangle, which means there's 3 different centers in your brain. The stress center, the amygdala. The other is the nucleus accumbens, which is the reward center. And the other one is the hypothalamus, which is the habit center. The 3 of these are kissing cousins. What they do is if you don't shut off the stress valve when you get it on the spot, it starts activating the nucleus accumbens and the hypothalamus. What that means is you are going to have changes in your brain that are biochemical. That cascade creates all the other chemicals going haywire and inflammation and extremes of behavior. And what happens is the more that happens, the more that we get stress and those 3 are chemically changing us, the more our brain gets wired for stress. That means your brain likes being in stress because it's normal and you feel like you're always being threatened, even though you're not, because your brain is overestimating your stress. And also, you get wired for cravings. What happens is you get this dopamine high and then it's followed by a low. So you're on this, you're always up and down, overeating, undereating, because your reward center is dysregulated. It's been rewired for cravings. And lastly, then you get in the habit of eating in a certain way that isn't at all healthy and living in a certain way. But the brain says, oh, well, I'm going to make that your new norm and make it really hard for you to change. So essentially, most of us have our stress triangle wired for stress through no fault of our own. But then if we want lasting change, you can't medicate it. What you have to do is actually experience being stressed and come back to that state of joy. And when you do that, all three of these centers begin to change. This is the tool, the cycle tool in EBT that changes all three centers, and you can learn how to use it. And each time you do, you're going to feel better in the moment, and you're also going to make your brain get better. You're going to heal those centers every time until the goal is for you to be wired not for stress, but naturally for joy, to be wired for self-control, where you naturally look at it and you're so rewarded inside by, by the chemicals that are natural that you don't even care about the extra food and also wired for optimal health. That's a true solution. What do you think of that? How many people would like to have a brain like that, where it was inside you, inside you, inside you? And the idea is you can do it. But just the way you are so careful with Dr. Sidhu and being sure that you're on prescription, right? You do what she tells you to do, right? Everybody, you're doing what your doctor tells you to do. You're doing the absolute best you can. Okay, you're doing the best you can. Okay, we're going to stay on prescription. But this is your prescription. And basically, this is based on the best neuroscience. 10 times a day, you need to clear your stress. And when you clear your stress, quite honestly, you also clear away the stress from the past, from the trauma, from the adverse childhood experiences, from the losses of love, from the loss of health. All of those things, you're clearing away the stress and you're getting to that state of joy 10 times a day. You need to learn something new about how to rewire your own brain. This is a life skill that everyone needs. And also, you need to connect with other people. So it means you need to stop and you say, oh my gosh, I'm not in joy, I'm in stress, and do something about it. You have to care enough to do something about it. And so also just to adopt a new attitude that, our brain wants us to be in joy, not because it cares us being happy, but that's the best for for evolution, for survival of the species. Our brain has these beautiful pathways that will take us to joy, but we haven't been using them because we've been thinking too much. We've got to drop into our body, trust our body, use the tools to go back to joy, and really uh, be in love with life. To look around and see the joy that's there. Don't wait for it to happen to you, just make it happen. Look at all the beauty around you. It's right there. But it takes your brain being sensitive to it and creating that natural kind of joy. And you can do that. And also, you need to learn how to rewire circuits. In the brain, there's a lot to learn. For example, the feeling where you have a fight or flight drive and you're just going to get that food, right? You don't care. You don't care what you should do. You know what you're going to do, right? Okay, that is a circuit called the survival circuit in your brain. You need to learn how to rewire them. And this is what happened. For example, when I was 11 years old, I came home. I'd been ridiculed at school. I came home, and my father had diabetes, so I knew you're not supposed to eat cinnamon rolls. And I had cinnamon rolls on the counter there, 3 big ones with the white frosting, the kind I'm talking about. Anyway, I was in fight or flight because I'd been so humiliated at school, and I reached for the cinnamon rolls. And what happened is this big old fight or flight circuit got hooked up with, I didn't really have food issues at the time. It was a little tiny food circuit. And they came together and they created a fight or flight drive to overeat. I had that for 20 years. When you have those drives, until they're rewired, they're going to be with you. But with EBT, with that cycle tool, you learn to actually separate that circuit so that it doesn't give you that chemical. And also, we're living in such a time of stress overload that same skill, everyone needs to be stress protected. And so you need to learn how to um, process the 5 major kinds of stress that we all go through. There's 5 major kinds. Everyone should have those skills so that when those things can't come in your life, whether it's grieving or trauma or chronic stress or reactive stress, you know exactly what to do. You use a cycle tool in a way that will do this. We want everyone to be stress protected. And the other part is this emotional brain, because we now have this stress brain, and most of us are living in our stress brain most of the time, is that we are not lone islands because this brain wants us to love. It wants us to connect, and it wants us to be sharing our innermost thoughts and feelings with other people. And these tools, these emotional tools, you can listen to someone, just sit there and listen for about 4 minutes, and it helps them and it helps you too. And so, a big part of EBT is actually using the tools with other people in groups. My husband is here. He listens to me use my EBT tools. My daughter Haley is here, and she does the same thing. And so you develop a circle of friends that you can actually be listened to. And also there's support groups for this. But we know that it's the loving connection plus the tools that matters. And here's a woman who's been in a telephone group, which is the standard, but you can also do it yourself. And let's listen to what she has to say about using these tools to heal.
Really amazing is my EBT support group. This group of people, I just love them. They listen without judgment. I feel seen, I feel heard. And our group leader is fantastic. She has helped me rewire many of my circuits that were holding me back from living the life of joy that I wanted. And so now I am better able to say no. I can make boundaries with other people, and I can appreciate and I can feel the joy in my life. I feel so much joy and I'm so grateful. The stress, my life is no longer defined by my work, which was always just so stressful. I can now enjoy myself. I enjoy my family, and I'm teaching my child these skills that are so important and fundamental for him to have a life of joy when he grows up.
So she's using the tools on her own, but she's also using them with others. And because we're mammals, because we're really love bugs, we need emotional connection. That really adds to the enjoyment of the method so that people use it more because they use it alone and they use it with their family and friends and with support groups. This week I did a session with someone new who had diabetes and was not sure that she was going to take the weight loss drug she was trying to figure out. And I started her, and I want to show it to you because you can actually see what it's like. Would you like to see? Okay, let's do it. Since what age did you start having uh, obesity or overeating?
I would say I would say like 3 years old. If,
3 years.
I yeah, there are things probably at that moment I didn't realize, but in as I got older and just things that were said, reflecting back on pictures, my dad used to take films of us. I was always the chubby one, I was always overweight.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so the most wonderful thing about weight loss drugs is they've convinced everybody that there's nothing wrong with you psychologically, or it's not a matter of willpower when it comes to having it be hard to eat healthy, lose weight, and keep it off. Because when you go on these drugs, you can actually stop the drive to overeat. So it's biochemical. And what you can do is later, if you decide you want to use weight loss drugs, you do, or not, whatever that is. But essentially, if you don't go to the biochemical root cause and change it, then in fact, you're always going to be struggling where you're overeating or undereating. And the reason for that is the root cause is actually stress. I don't mean psychological stress. I mean the way that the stress from the world comes into our brain and creates changes in our biochemistry. So you can actually change your biochemistry with something called EBT, which was developed at the University of California, San Francisco. And it's the only weight loss program that's actually shown lasting weight loss after treatment ends. And what you
Um,
do is you change the chemicals in your brain by getting to a state of connection and well-being, that flow state where you really feel good.
mhm,
Like if
mhm.
you right now take a moment and you bring up a happy memory, can you do that right now? Just bring up a happy memory.
Yeah, yeah.
What's that memory?
It's a memory of me being with all my children and grandchildren and just feeling grateful and blessed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you did that, do you notice a shift in your body? That you feel a tingle or a glow or relaxation?
Kind of a calmness that set in. Yes.
Okay. Well, neuroscientists call that joy.
Okay.
So it's not happy, happy, happy. It's what's going on inside your brain is the best biochemistry. So right in that moment, Roseanne has shown herself that she can control the chemicals in every cell of her body. She can use emotions to do it. Thoughts won't do it. And we call these little episodes of joy, we call them joy points. But what they are is essentially giving us an ability to bring in dopamine, and the dopamine shuts off the cortisol. And what happens is the biochemistry changes in the right direction. And so what we've done with EBT, this skill set, is to say, how can you create more moments in that state where all of the stress is turned off, all the wires in the brain that activate 8 major chemicals that make you overeat and have cravings and gain weight are shut off. How do you get to joy? And it turns out that you can't think your way there. You can't be mindful and get your way there. You can't even analyze your way there. You have to use emotional pathways in the brain. And so this method, EBT, created tools to mirror the natural resiliency pathways. So you can pretty much get to joy anytime, anywhere if you use it.
Okay.
Okay. And so even for just a moment of feeling good, it stops those stress chemicals that drive the overeating and weight gain.
Okay.
How does that sound to you?
It sounds like, I mean, it makes sense to me. How do you keep it there? After
Yeah.
so many years, I mean, I'm 70. Yeah, how many years of those ruts, forming in my brain? How do I keep it there?
Well, they're actually ruts. They're pathways.
Yeah.
But the brain's very plastic, so we're going to change the pathways. And so
All
it's
right.
kind of like, a rut in a road. If you all of a sudden start going from stress to joy from the bottom of your brain where you're all stressed and all those chemicals are driving, diabetes and weight gain to the top of your brain, you're going to get a stronger pathway that going up than going down into stress. So you're
Okay.
really just getting your brain out of the stress habit and into a habit that's much healthier.
Okay.
Are you willing to do it?
Yes, yeah, I am. I think this may be a key.
Hey, so Roseanne has begun. She's already experienced that shift in her body, but there's so many more tools within EBT that are much more powerful that she needs now to be introduced to some other ways that she can do it. And then once she learns some beginner strategies of approaching emotions in a new ways, she can deepen that skill until she actually can rewire some of the circuits for lasting results. So let's take a look at her trying out one of the more simple tools right now, and she's going to feel a flow in her body. It's going to be very subtle, but it's probably something she's never experienced before because this is a new way to use emotions. It's very innovative, that's neuroscience based. So let's take a look right now.
Okay.
So you've already done the joy point. Would you like to try just a really simple tool? It's called um, the flow tool, and see if you can move through your emotions.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna be your app, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say some words, like the beginning of a sentence. And what
Okay.
I want you to do is I want you to say them aloud because I want you to hear it in your own voice,
Okay.
and then I want you to complete the sentence
All
with
right.
whatever comes to your mind. And what the importance is, you're using your thinking brain, which is at the top, to get into your unconscious mind, the stress brain, the emotional brain, where these circuits that activate the chemicals that contribute to diabetes and obesity reside. So you say it the first, like, I feel happy that, you might say. And then you pause and you wait for the words to appear in your mind. They'll seem to come from your body. You don't want to think your way through it. Thinking's not going to help here. And then
Okay.
do it, okay? So we're going to do 8 feelings and give you a start on this, okay?
Okay. So this is just whatever comes to my
Whatever
mind.
comes to mind, because what that's doing is connecting your brain. When you're in stress, the brain disconnects. Thinking
Oh,
brain goes one direction and the emotional brain just takes off with all those chemicals. So I'm going to
Okay.
give you 8 of them, and we'll just go step by step. Anytime you don't feel safe, you're going to stop and
Okay.
just have fun with it. You'll get better and better at this, okay?
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
So the first one is, if you're stressed, you're going to be a little angry about something. It's about protesting. Why is that going on? I feel angry that. So, get into it a little bit, and you're going to say, I feel angry that, and then you're going to stop and you're going to turn your attention to your body and say whatever comes to your mind. It doesn't even have to make sense, and it'll still have a good effect. Now, this is a new idea, that the fact is you don't have to make sense, that essentially your brain wants you to use your thinking brain for the most important thing, which is to connect with your emotional brain, the survival brain, the brain of connection and reward and everything that's important in life. And once you connect it enough to have some words bubble up from your unconscious mind to your conscious mind, you're already having a big physiological shift, which is exactly what we want for diabetes and obesity. Okay? And then we'll
Okay.
do sad, afraid, guilty, and then we'll move to positive, grateful, happy, secure, proud. Okay? Okay, so I'm
Okay.
going to say it one at a time.
All
I'm,
right.
I feel angry that, and you're going
I feel angry that
to pause, turn your attention to your body, and wait to complete the sentence, whatever comes to your mind.
I'm 71 years old and I'm still dealing with my weight.
Great. Okay. So I'm teaching you a process. When you learn this process, you're going to change your biochemistry, all those 8 chemicals. Very well done. Okay, now you might think, she just said something really emotional. Why didn't I respond to it? Because what's really going on here is she's learning how to use her emotional brain. And if she can learn this process, what's going to happen is she gets good at this process. Not only will it affect her diabetes and her obesity, but all aspects of life, because she's going to be able, no matter what's going on, to get back to that state of connection where, we don't have any problems, we just have challenges. And that's what I want for her. I feel sad that, you're going to repeat it. I feel sad that,
I feel sad that I have wasted so much energy thinking about my weight and how it stopped me from doing things.
okay, just feel that feeling until it fades. Really good. Just feel it. Tell me when you're ready for more.
Heart's beating.
Good, good.
Okay.
Okay, I feel afraid that,
I feel afraid that, ooh, that I will die still doing this.
feel that feeling in your body. Feel that feeling in your body. That was very well done. Until it fades.
Okay.
Did it fade?
Did it fade?
Yeah.
It's getting better.
Then we're going to stay with it until it fades. That's where you extract the benefit that affects you chemically. Nice deep breath. There's a little shift in time.
Okay.
Did it shift?
Yeah, I'm calmer on
Okay.
the inside.
On the inside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That was absolutely wonderful, because what she's been taught before with traditional psychotherapy and health education is you identify your feelings and then you express them, and then you express them some more and some more and some more. And what happens is you do feel better, but your brain doesn't get better. In order for the circuits in your brain to get better, you're going to activate one feeling, and then you're going to feel it and feel it and feel it until it fades. And that shifts from the circuit that's ineffective to the one that's effective. And when you change the circuits, you use neuroplasticity to make lasting change. And that is what we want. I'm holding her in this process. I'm teaching her this very quickly. She's going to learn how to use that power of the pause, and she'll be able to do it herself. But at first, you need a little guidance so that you take that extra bit of time to really feel the feeling and exact all the physiologic benefit from it, which is what she did. Okay. And now we're going to look at your power. We're going to say, hey, everybody, I do have some power here. I feel guilty. Why don't I just do the sensible thing and put your shoulders back and your chest out. You're bringing out the best in your thinking, and you're going to say, hey, everybody, I do have some power here. I feel guilty. Why don't I just, what do
Hey,
you
every,
do?
oh,
What do you wish you'd do? Hey, everybody,
hey, everybody. I
I
have some power here.
feel guilty. Why don't I just,
I feel guilty. Why don't I just find out what it is and do something about it?
okay. Wow, why don't I just do that? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
And notice what happens here. She took that ineffective circuit that was activating all sorts of chemicals that were affecting her diabetes and affecting her obesity. And she shut off that circuit. And now she's going to open the door to the effective circuit, which is based on all the healthy chemicals being dispensed from her own brain. And she's going to do that with the positive emotions. So see what happens next. Okay, super. We're getting there. And we're just going to go over now later when we work together. You'll actually find the circuit that's making you do that. But right now, we're just warming up. So I'm going to ask
Okay.
you to turn your attention to I feel grateful that. I feel grateful that, even a little bit grateful.
Okay. I feel grateful that I was I was able to recognize it when I did and not spend the next 10 years for my health getting worse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
feel happy that. I feel happy that.
I feel happy that I am at least doing something that I think is the right path and maybe has been the missing link all these years. Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel secure that. You're almost there. You're doing wonderfully.
I feel secure. I feel secure in the choices that I'm making right now in trying to make myself a healthier person.
And I feel proud that shoulders back. Hey, I feel proud that
I feel proud that I am I'm feel proud that what am I proud about? I feel proud that I'm letting myself learn more. Um, yeah, that I'm letting myself learn more, that I'm pursuing knowledge that's going to help me. Yeah.
knowledge is going to help you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so what you've just done, you feel a little different in your body, right? You can feel it.
Yeah.
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 Okay. So you've just
Yeah.
used emotions as medicine to clear away those chemicals. Now it's really important that she acknowledge that there is a shift in her body. What that does is further connect her brain. It's called interoceptive awareness. It essentially creates a milieu of internal chemicals that are healing and more recognition for the fact she has power to be, a chemical dispensary from her brain, and that it affects every cell of her body. So this is a time to do a victory lap and appreciate she just used EBT for the first time, and she did spectacular job. And all the circuits in your brain that causes stress, when you feel better like that, they're all shut off. So it means you're already beginning to rewire your brain. Okay, so what did she just do? But she did this the first time, so she knows a little bit about those moments of joy, which are really fun, and there's 7 different ways to do it, and she started down this pathway to using emotions in an entirely different way that's not just psychological, but biochemical. And that's because we're looking at stress, and we're essentially taking that stress and clearing it by going to a higher place. Going to a higher place, it's all about joy. Okay, so the whole idea here, and we'll go to the next slide. The whole idea here is you're using your brain to motivate you naturally, so you get the endorphins and the dopamine going. You clear away the stress, and you are unstoppable. What you're doing is you're using joy to overcome stress. And this was developed at the University of California, San Francisco, thanks to Dr. Charles Irwin allowing me to follow my passions. We moved it to adult obesity. And then when all of a sudden, when the neuroplasticity came in, Mike Merzenich was there, the father of neuroplasticity. And of course, we moved it to how to change the circuits. Igor Mitrovich, a neuroscientist who used EBT personally and came to me and says, "How did you figure this out?" He brought it to the next level. And now we're in the process of moving it so it's scalable for everyone, including psychotherapy based on physiology. So what I want you to do is appreciate that there's a lot of science behind this. Many different studies have been done over time. And the study shows something different than other methods. What it shows is that when you change physiology, when you're changing the biochemistry, not focusing on the behavior, but the biochemistry of the entire being, what happens is people change in ways they wouldn't otherwise. That's why we can get lasting weight loss, because your brain is now giving you the chemicals you need so you can use all the medications you're using on all the devices, but use them better. And after only 18 weeks, but also when you come in, let's say for diabetes, when you raise the set point of your brain so you're in the joy habit, your relationships improve, your thinking improves, your work productivity improves, all aspects of life improve. And you have to appreciate that first you have to learn the skills and then you use them. Here is a study done by Jackie Placidy that showed people who had 6 weeks of EBT on the left and 13 times a day that's a lot, 13 times a day for 3 consecutive days. They checked their level of stress before they used the EBT tools to see what changes were in their brain, what was natural. What I hope and pray for you, as well as for myself, is that I have a life where I don't have to work so hard. So my brain starts doing some of the work for me. And you can see here, people who had 6 weeks knew the tools, but they were still spending most of their time in chronic stress. After 4 months or so, what happened is the people spontaneously were staying at a higher state. That's just not happiness and quality of life, but it's also biochemistry. And that's what we're after, to raise the set point of the brain. And so what you can see here is this whole idea that the medicine is moving toward circuits in the brain, rewiring circuits. I've been talking with you about this the whole time, but also there's a brand new study out from University of Washington that's very encouraging because they found a third pathway, a third way to potentially treat diabetes that has to do with rewiring circuits. There's one particular chemical, and they actually silenced it and found that even without changes in diet or weight, it normalized blood sugar. And they suggested that we need to start targeting brain circuits. So this is really on the cutting edge of neuroscience and diabetes treatment. Again, keep doing everything you're going to do. We're so lucky to have such wonderful opportunities. But then bringing in emotional brain training to get the set point of the brain up, to clear that stress, and to create more joy in our life. Because what our brain is really telling us is that we are joy creatures. You know, uh, we have a brain that has beautiful pathways in it, and our emotional brain that'll take us from stress to joy. All we need to do is strengthen them. And when we do that, we can improve our health and our quality of life. So I want to thank all the people that contributed to this program today, and to you for staying a little bit extra to learn a little bit about turning stress into joy. Thank you.